Hi, this is Mike Palmer from bestbuildingkit.com. We appreciate you visiting our site and watching our videos. I want to go over some frequently asked questions with our trusses just to avoid confusion and clear things up, because a lot of the questions we get are a little bit repetitive. But first we must start with a disclaimer. We are construction people. I'm a licensed contractor, but in this capacity we are truss dealers. We're not licensed engineers, so you probably should not listen to anything we say for any reason whatsoever. Now that I have that out of the way, these trusses are a very versatile product. Basically, you put a post in the ground, put your truss on, put your 2x6s in, you can screw metal on the top, and you have a shelter. That's our most common shelter right there, the red one. Now, you can close in the buildings, a lot of different things you can do with them. But some of the questions we get asked is, the trusses, they come in 2-foot increments, meaning 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, all the way on up to 80 feet. Now, when people, so if you have, for instance, a 20-foot wide truss, the distance from the outside of the post to the outside of the post is 20 feet, and that's a 6x6 post, or 5.5 inches. So, or a 30 by 30 foot wide truss, your distance from the outside of post to outside of post is going to be 30 feet. Now, if you wanted the inside dimension, we just take a post is 5.5 inches. So this post and that post are going to be 11 inches. So in our 20-foot wide example, 20-foot wide building, well, the inside will be your 20 foot minus your 11 inches. So it would be 19-foot 1. Okay. The buildings come in two halves. The trusses come in two halves. Okay. They bolt together right in the center here. This one, the bolts are on the other side, but it's very simple installation. There is some adjustment here. You can put washers in there, and if your posts are a little bit off, these buildings are very forgiving, you can make an adjustment. This here is called a spreader bar or collar tie. It's a stabilizer bar. It is structural to keep the truss from spreading. Sometimes we have two of them. Typically from the bottom of your truss here to the bottom of your stabilizer bar is 2 foot 9 inches. That shrinks a little with our small, 12 and 16 foot trusses that we don't sell many of, but you can pretty much account for a 2 foot 9 from the bottom here up to the bottom of your stabilizer bar. Now, these are lag bolted in sides. All the bolts come with the truss. So most of our trusses come in two halves. The bigger ones, they get to be 4-piece and 5-piece, but most of our trusses are a 2-piece truss. So if you have two halves, you have a 20-foot truss, you don't need to buy two halves. It's one truss. Okay? We're selling them as a complete truss. But when we ship them, they're shipped in half, and you assemble them on site. These trusses come with a standard 412 pitch. We have some other custom pitches available, but typically this is the majority of what we sell is a 412 pitch truss. These pieces here are called purlins. They run left to right in between your trusses. Most of our buildings are 10 foot on center. Some people put them 12 foot on center. But you put the trusses and they go into this purlin cup. The purlin cup has pre-drilled holes in it that you screw into. Now, what we recommend is putting the purlin in the cup, screwing the top side, the upper side in first. You want to make sure that's nice and straight, because sometimes they get bent in transit or just from handling. So that's nice and straight, screw that in, then bring this one into it. If you're using rough-hewn lumber, some people mill their own lumber that they're going to use. These cups are spread a little wider, so you can fit them in there. But we always have a spread there so that you ease of installation when you're reaching those purlins across to put them in, when you're up on a lift or a scaffold working, that you're not fighting to get them in here. We heard when you put these in here, they're curved. Sometimes there's a little gap under there. That's nothing to worry about. That's completely normal. Cord depth. On this sample, our cord depth, this dimension here is 12 inches. However, the majority of our trusses, if you are 44 foot or less in width, our cord depth is 18 inches, that dimension there. If you are a 46 foot wide truss up to a 62 foot wide truss, that cord depth is 24 inches. If your truss is 64 feet on up to 80 feet, this cord depth is 30 inches. Okay, now, that's the depth of your cord. This section here, you notice you have a vertical component and a horizontal component. This horizontal component sits on top of the post. This bolts into the face of the post, so you have additional strength and stability. But this section, you typically lose 4 inches. So from here, you lose 4 inches of your truss. on this portion here, this part from the top of the post down to the bottom of the truss, I call this post loss. We just call it that because the bottommost dimension of your truss to the top of your post, you're losing a little bit of height here, every 10 feet where the post sits. So, our chord loss, okay? All right, since we have a 16-inch dimension here, you lose 4 inches here, okay? So you actually, your post loss is going to be 15 inches. I'm sorry, you have 18-inch. So you lose 4 inches, but because of the angle, you have another inch. So on our trusses that are 44 foot or less, you lose 15 inches here. You're going to lose 21 inches on the 46 wide to the 62 foot wide, and you're going to lose 26 inches from your 64 foot wide to your 80 foot wide trusses. The posts are typically 6x6s, meaning 5.5 or 5.5. Now there are 2 occasions where it has been recommended that you go with an 8x8 post. One is if the building is 50 foot wide or bigger. Sometimes people will go with an 8x8 post, or they will take a 6x6 and they will nail 8 foot 2x8s surrounding, take 4 of them and nail them around the bottom section, because where that post is in the ground, that's where your stress point is. So if your post was, say, 4 foot in the ground, you'd have extra reinforcing right where that stress point is. The other situation is if you are 14 foot high or above on your sidewall and 40 foot wide plus, also then it has been recommended that you go with an 8x8 post. The gable overhangs and fascia. So number one, our side overhang, this side part of it is called the eave. Our eave overhangs, they vary within length of the metal between this portion here, 16 inches and 23 inches. However, when we put the metal on, you typically overhang at 3 inches here. So for all intents and purposes, you have a 2 foot overhang. Sometimes a little bit less, sometimes a little bit more, but it's all very close. There, so it's a nice healthy overhang. Now, the overhang on the gable end. This portion here is called the gable end. We put these purlins in. Typically you run them long, snap a chocolate line, saw them all even, and you can adjust this overhang, but typically we go 2 feet. Now, on the end of that overhang, you don't have to put anything on this face here. You can just hang the metal over, and it will function just as well. However, for that look, I like to put a 2x6 right across there. Just gives it a nicer look, ties it all together, and that's basically what you see on our sample photos. Okay, when you buy one of our kits, all right, the kits come like this here, all right, all the parts for a roof. We can do whole building kits, but this is typically, our base price is for a shelter. You close in the walls if and when you want to. Now, what that comes with, you have your posts, you have your trusses with all the hardware, you have your purlins, you have your screws, you have your metal, your lumber, 2x6s, and all your metal, and this piece called the ridge cap. They typically come in 12 foot lengths, but that goes right on the ridge between your top 2 purlins. And the way that sits, right over your ribs, air can come in and out in there, so you have ventilation. Now, if you were just putting up just like a pavilion style roof only, you're not closing on the sides, you probably won't need insulation. If you ever intend to close in that building, we feel it's much simpler to put in some insulation under the roof, because if you close in a window, close in a metal building, you will have condensation on that roof. It just starts raining inside your building, and you're not going to be real happy with that. So they have a thin insulation. It's like 3/4 inch foam or double bubble that we do sell. You would drape this across your purlins, put your metal on there. That just slows the reaction between hot and cold, just like the foam koozie that goes around your soda can. Stops a drip of water there. Now, like this here, this is called a lean-to or a shed truss, right here. That comes off the eave. Now, typically the dimension of that, if you say you have a 12-foot shed truss or a 20-foot shed truss, the dimension would be from the inside of the post It bolts to the post there very simply, and it comes out to the outside of your post here. So from the inside of there, from the inside here to the outside of post is your outside of your post is your dimension. Now, this is a 4 and 12 pitch. Okay, what that means is for every 12 inches over, you have 4 inches up. For every 12 feet over, you have 4 feet up. That's a nice. It goes well with residential. That's a nice pitch. It sheds water pretty well. Now, on your lean-tos, we go with what's called a 2-12 pitch, meaning for every 12 foot over, you drop 2 feet, or every 12 inches, you drop 2 inches. The reason we go with a shallower pitch there is so you don't lose too much height, so it's still useful. If it's very steep, you lose all the height on the side. If it's shallow, it gives you more usable space under there for the sheds. Sheds are a great option, even if you have an existing pole barn. It's just a convenient way to get you a lot more space, and it adds more stability to the building. Now, the most typical way with a post frame building or a pole barn is you dig a hole in the ground and put the post in there. The farmer's rule of thumb is for every 3 foot you have up, you have 1 foot in the ground. We have some other options for attaching the poles, because if you're going onto an existing concrete slab, you can use this. We call this a dry set anchor. Very heavy duty. As far as I know, it's the most heavy duty one in the industry. You've got a stabilizer bar, which I've not seen on any other competitors' models. You've got 2 holes here, and you've got small holes for temporary nailing till you drill your holes. And you would through bolt it, and you would molly or redhead this into an existing slab. This is called a wet set anchor, and as you assume, it goes into wet concrete. All right, it's got 2 foot of rebar. They're on an offset pattern for additional strength. You've got actually three layers here with additional welds. It's a very heavy duty piece. This goes down into the concrete. You can make it flush with a monolithic slab. You can put it in a sonotube and leave it up and pour your slab later, or you can just put it right flush with a sonotube, whatever construction technique you feel like you need to use. And you've got bolt holes through here, through bolted in. These are very heavy duty, great product. Probably best to buy it with your kit. When we have shipped these long distances, the shipping cost gets significant. So I just don't want to get any false expectations. So a lot of people call in. When they find out the shipping cost, they make sure it's not economical. So you probably don't want to call and order 1 or 2 of these if you're going to order some. But best to order a quantity. And the most typical way people attach these posts is still post hole digger, auger bit, putting it in the ground, pouring concrete around it. But post, truss, 2x6, screw your metal on, and you have a very versatile building. Hopefully you have found this video of value. If you have any questions, you can call us at this number here. I apologize, this number is no longer a good number. You would be referred to us, but this is 704-489-8200. If you found some value in this video, feel free to like it or share it, or go to our Facebook page at bestbuildingkit.com. So again, thank you for your interest in our video. We appreciate you viewing.